That is why most retirees with a starting salary of $1 million don't go bankrupt. They died richer than the day after work. Once you understand math and the psychology that drives it, the whole "you're going to be short of money" panic that the financial industry is marketing to you is starting to look completely backward. Here are the facts in the data. Employee Welfare Institute, EBRI. For decades, the company has used data from the University of Michigan Health and Retirement Study to track true retirees. The program, which began in 1992, tracks families every 2 years. In April 2026, EBRI released its latest offering brief by Sudipto Banerjee. To be honest, these findings are somewhat unexpected. Retirement, 21 to 22 years. Now, people are in their 80s. 48% of middle-class retirees and 42% of senior retirees still own 80% or more of their retirement funds. Even crazier, 43% of middle-class retirees and 31% of senior retirees ended the period with 100% or more of their original savings. Exactly. 20 years later, and the pile of money looked the same or bigger than the day they clocked out. The researchers actually gave this odd result. They call it the mystery of retirement savings. Sometimes the mystery of retirement spending, because traditional economics holds that retirees should save while working and then spend all their money before they die. Real life refuses to cooperate. Mr. Banerjee wrote bluntly that instead of cutting spending, a large number of retirees accumulate assets during retirement. The question is how 1 million quietly grew into something that looked more like 5 million. The answer boils down to 3 forces: compound interest, conservative withdrawal, and what no one reminds you is that actual spending decreases as you age. Let's start with math, because most of the hard work here is done through math. One financial shortcut is called Rule 72. You get 72 points divided by your annual return. How many years will it take to double your money? At a 7% return, the renminbi doubled in about 10.3 years. At 8%, the doubling occurred about 9 years later. Now, layered in context. According to Sophie, the 30-year average annual return on the S&P 500 through 2024 is nominally around 9%, about 6.3% after inflation adjustment. Traditional 60/40ths combination, according to Janus Henderson. For 95 years, it averaged about 8.9% a year. Insert a number, and the image becomes interesting. $1 million compound interest of 7% below S&P's historical average. It doubled in just a decade to about 2 million. By the 20th year, that number had doubled to about 4 million. Land prices for 23 to 25 years range from $4.7 million to $5.4 million. None of this is speculation. Just compounding is doing what compounding can do. That is all the math headlines you hear. But there is a problem. This calculation works only if the account is not used up. That is where economists are surprised by human behavior. Type Bill Bengen, trained as an aerospace engineer at MIT. Before becoming a financial planner, in 1994, Mr. Bengen published a paper in the Journal of Financial Planning titled Using Historical Data to Determine Withdrawal Rates. That paper spawned what is now known as the 4% rule. The concept works like this. The first-year portfolio is 4%. Since then, the dollar has appreciated every year due to inflation. In the history of the 50/50ths stock bond portfolio, each rolling period in U.S. history lasted for a full 30 years, including the 1929 crash and stagflation in the 1970s. 4 years later, in 1998, 3 Trinity professors, Cooley, Hubbard, and Walls, run your own version of the experiment. Trinity Research confirms Benjan's work. The withdrawal rate of 50/50th's portfolio is 4%, and the 30-year success rate is about 95%. By 2024, intrinsic safety update rules. Once broader asset allocation, such as small cap stocks, is restored, the number of safe withdrawals will increase to 4.7%. But the 4% rule completely ignores that. Most retirees earn less than 4% of their income. They pull less, sometimes less. David Blanchett, one of the most watched retired researchers in the United States, is now the Director of Retirement Research at PGI Solutions. In May 2014, a study titled Exploring the Mysteries of Retirement Spending was published in the Journal of Financial Planning. This finding contradicts all the industry's assumptions. Between the ages of 60 and 90, real spending on inflation, adjusted retirees fell by an average of 0.96% a year. That means real spending has fallen by nearly a full percentage point. People retire every year. The discovery appended the standard retirement calculator. Most calculators assume that your spending will always rise with inflation. Blanchett's numbers are the opposite. In fact, for most retirees, the spending will drift downward and back to healthcare. He named the shape of the curve retirement spending smile. Michael Stein, a financial planner, put a more memorable label on the same idea in his 1998 book, A Wealthy Retirement. Retirement is divided into 3 different stages. Go-go is about 65 to 75 years old. Retirees travel, pursue hobbies, and really see the world. Slow-moving years cover 75 to 85 years, when economic activity slows and spending falls naturally. People 85 and older will have a no-entry year, when discretionary spending basically collapses. Although medical costs could soar, fold everything together, and the picture becomes clearer. The market is compounding the portfolio at a rate of 7%, 8%, or even 9% a year. Retirees are withdrawing nearly 4% of their money. In addition, real spending has quietly fallen by about 1% a year. Math is not just real. It fled them in the best direction. Another overlooked issue is the income floor. A study by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development found that retirees with guaranteed income, Social Security checks, fixed income pensions, or annuities, over time, they kept more of their portfolios. The Social Security Bureau reported that an average monthly retirement benefit of $2,071 is expected in January 2026. In 2026, the cost of living was adjusted to 2.8%, about 75 million Americans. For a large number of retirees, Social Security and pensions cover baseline bills. That means $1 million portfolio is right there, quietly reunited, with little or no connection. The required minimum distribution is also worth mentioning, because many people thought RMD would ruin the whole story. But they didn't. Under the Security 2.0 Act, signed into law in December 2022, you have to start taking RMDs at 73. That age is expected to climb to 75 in 2033. Yes, the IRS forces you to withdraw money from a traditional 401k or IRA account. But that is what people have been forgetting. You don't actually have to pay. You pay taxes. Transfer funds to taxable brokerage accounts. It keeps compounding, but in different buckets, there are different rules. Now look at honest checks and balances, because there must be another side to the story. First, the headline is 1 million to 5 million. An illustrative math scene. This is the result of a compound interest rate of about 7% over a period of 23 to 25 years. This is not a guaranteed outcome, nor is it a recorded average for each retiree. Second, dispersion is well below average, according to the European Bank for reconstruction and development. 31 to 43% of the retirees with medium and high assets retain 100% or more of the starting assets. A large number of other retirees suffered heavy losses. The median non-residential assets of middle-class retirees are still down 30% in 21 to 22 years. Low-asset retirees have been hit hardest so far. More than half of the companies ended up holding less than 50% of their initial capital. Third, the return risk sequence is correct. Charles Schwab and the US Bank have written about how to get directly into bear markets. In 2000 or 2008, for example, forced to sell when prices fall could cause permanent damage to the portfolio. 1 million to 5 million mathematics, quietly, undertake market cooperation, or at least not collapse, in the first few years out of the workplace. Fourth, it does bother researchers. Many retirees don't save because they optimize it. They kept it out of fear. A 2018 study in the Journal of Personal Finance. Boston University Retirement Research Center quoted, "The study found that about half of retirees were indeed afraid to use their savings. They don't spend enough of their busy years. How many years of health and energy do they need to enjoy what they've spent decades building? Those days are gone." Finally, future retirees may not land in the same place. In particular, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRI, warned that the population they studied still had fixed income pension support. Offspring, without these pensions, face a greater risk of longevity. The pattern that retirees end up with far more retirees than they started is clear. They have a Social Security income floor, or a basic pension. They follow or maintain a nearly 4% exit rule. As the economy slows, their real spending will naturally fall. The rest of the portfolio sits quietly in the market, doing what market history has done, about double every decade. $1 million. For 20 years, the market has maintained historical behavior. It became something that looked like 4 or 5 million. None of this is magic. None of this is hacking. It is just a math problem that translates retirees' actual behavior directly into reality. The real question is not whether the money will run out, because, for a considerable number of retirees, the numbers say no. The real problem is that Blanchett and a long list of other researchers keep asking questions. The question is whether you actually used any of them, whether you're traveling during busy hours, or you end up a retiree who dies at 92 with more money than you did at 65, quietly wondering what the savings were for. This is the mystery. Now you know the answer.